Good
evening, Michael.
Oh, here's somebody else.
Are we all right now?
Yeah.
Okay. Good evening, everybody, and welcome to this annual parish meeting. Can I have apologies for absence, please?
We have apologies from Councillor Arnold and Mr. Howard McMillan.
Right,
We will need to do the register first as well before we move on.
Please.
So Councillor Austin?
Here.
Councillor Morgan?
I'm here.
Councillor Rouse?
Okay.
Councillor Lindsay?
Present.
Councillor Every?
Present.
Councillor Phillips?
Present.
Councillor Alison Whelan? Councillor Christine Whelan?
Present.
Councillor Warman?
Present.
Councillor Arnold, who's given apologies. Councillor Bello.
Present.
Councillor Dennis.
Present.
Councillor Downey. He's not here. And Councillor Wilkins.
Present.
Thank you. The minutes of the last parish meeting held on the 15th of April. Has everybody read them?
Yes.
Councillor Christine Whelan, you've got your hand up.
Yes, just a discrepancy in the start time. It says 7:30. I believe we actually started at 6:30 on that particular day, because otherwise the timings don't quite work in the rest of the minutes.
Yeah, we had seen that, so that will be corrected.
We had.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
Okay, anybody else? 161. 162. 163. Are there any matters arising? No, dead silence. Right, that's what I like to hear. Right, well, I have already welcomed people to the meeting, especially our visitors, and it doesn't seem a year since the last one, I have to say. We all know, I think, why this meeting is actually being virtually streamed. It's a bit of a nuisance. We didn't think it was going to be like this for another year, but obviously it is, due to the COVID-19 pandemic and the need for government to operate within, for the council to operate within government guidelines and be safe. Okay, thank you. So we'll go on. Presentation of reports. Is everybody happy with those? Have they read them? Personnel, governance and finance.
You've got to do the chairman's one first.
Oh, sorry, I thought I'd done it.
Oh, have you? Oh, right, sorry.
Okay. Well, I'll do the chairman's. You mean what is actually what I wrote rather than what I've just said.
Yes.
I have to say it's an honour to have served as mayor and chairman of the city council for the past year. It has been a very difficult year with the pandemic curtailing the usual way of working. The annual council meeting and mayor making did not happen as usual in May, but was postponed until July due to the uncertainty of the pandemic. We had a wonderful Christmas lights display again. Staff and volunteers safely erected the lights across the city centre, adhering to government guidelines, which I'm sure cheered everybody up. We needed a bit of light relief. And I must praise our clerks for their hard work and the support that they've given to me, as well as the clerks who have been working from home full-time. The estates team have also continued to work as normal throughout the year, ensuring parishioners can access the cemetery, play areas and recreation sites safely. Other staff have also continued to work. Some have been furloughed and some have worked on reduced hours. I want to thank them all for their continued support of the council. We do look forward to a much more normal and healthy year in the future. Please continue to keep safe. Thank you. Right, Councillor Alison Whelan, Personnel, Finance and Governance. Do you want to say anything?
Yes, thank you, Chair. You've obviously got the written report, so I don't intend to go through that in detail. I'd like to first of all say, obviously, that we have had quite a challenging year with trying to do everything virtually. And I think it's appropriate to thank Tracy for our clerk for making a lot of these things happen, but not just her, actually all of the staff who have managed to keep the council going over the last year. I think without their help, a lot of things wouldn't have actually managed to happen. Obviously, the pandemic has had a major impact on the way that the council works. And as our chair has already pointed out, the impact on the staff who've been furloughed and so forth. We've continued to receive audit examination, which has complemented the council on the way we're operating. The council itself has moved forward tremendously with looking at the inclusivity, with motions supporting Black Lives Matter and so forth. We also embarked upon a strategic plan which has been impacted tremendously by COVID and no real understanding of how we're going to, or how that is going to be impacted by the ongoing situation. Obviously, the council's finances have been badly affected by the closure of the maltings, Cromwell's House, the inability to carry out a lot of the activity that we previously have. And that the council has decided not to pass all of that shortfall directly onto the residents, but to try and use reserves as far as possible so that we can minimise the increase in our council tax. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Whelan. Planning, please, Councillor Lindsay. Have you got anything to say?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yes, my report is, I'm afraid, pretty much what I've said every year for the last 4 or 5 years. So it only remains really for me to thank my fellow round dozen councillors who every fortnight meet with me to process all the plans that we've submitted. And also, of course, to thank Marianne Pickering, our clerk, who keeps the show on the road very efficiently despite all the vagaries of the IT, because every single meeting this year, of course, has been on Zoom. If there are any questions, I'm more than happy to field them.
Okay. Assets, Councillor Phillips and Councillor Morgan.
I think Councillor Morgan is the man we should refer to as chair.
Thank you very much. I present the report on behalf of the Assets Committee. I too would like to thank our clerks who support us and quite often cajole us into making decisions. I'd like to thank our former colleague, Edward Carson Brown, for his contribution over the last 2 years. And I want to thank our committee, but I especially want to thank Councillor Phillips for all that he has done over the last 12 months. And I'd like to hand over to him now to say a few words.
Thank you very much. The part of the report which is mine is that which is headed recreation and then cemetery. Some members of my family tell me that I'm much more interested in dead people than living, but that is a wicked calumny. But if there are any questions, you'll see that quite a lot of work has been done in both those areas over the past 12 months. And as we are thanking people, I can't do other than thank Sarah J, who has been a real colleague in this part of the work that the Assets Committee has done. She and I meet regularly with the estates team, and without her it would have been a much more difficult job to keep everything under control. So there's the report, and if I can answer any questions, I would be very glad to. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Phillips. Climate and Environment. That's Councillor Lindsay again.
Thank you, Madam Chair. You won't get rid of me that easily. The only difference as far as the Environment and Climate Committee is concerned this year is that we have one fewer member, so that we have, there are 5 of us, but reporting to us, we now have the Climate Change Working Group, the CCTV Working Group, and the Outdoor Sports and Leisure Working Group. So we cover quite a range of activities. The chairs of those particular working groups will be reporting to you later, so I won't steal their thunder. The nice bit of news was that we, just in time for Remembrance Sunday, managed to complete the work on the refurbishment of the Prick Willow War Memorial, just to show that we do care for our surrounding villages that fall within the parish. The not so good news was that sadly this year, both our bids for the Local Highways Initiative works were not successful. That impacted again on Prick Willow. So like everything in local government, you win some, you lose some. The only other thing I'd like to mention is particularly is the growth in community participation. And most particularly, I'd like to mention the Ely litter picking group, born out of what the sort of boredom of, I think, of lockdown, when people are going out walking all the time. They notice how much rubbish there is around the city, sadly, but they decided to do something about it. And led by Mara Hawkes, who I'd specifically like to mention, they now have a membership of 300 who are spending an enormous amount of time litter picking all around Ely and the surrounds, and you can see the difference already. But of course, nobody can work in isolation, and I do have to thank ECDC and particularly Street Scene in the support they've been giving the group. They collect the rubbish, they take away the black bags, they supply them with black bags and stickers and so on. But this is a real community effort, and I'm very grateful for the work that they've done. I think we're getting a presentation from Ely Eco Trees later, and Eco Ely again has a very active web page, and they're all contributing to our common good. And that's what the Environment Committee is about, making Ely a nice place to live in. So I'll end on that positive note. And if there are any questions, again, more than happy to take them.
Tourism and Town Centre, Councillor Warman, please.
Good evening, everyone. As I'm sure you've appreciated, this year, the last year has been really, really difficult and very, very challenging for tourism and town centre management. But I would like to thank Anna Bennett and her team for all their hard work in very, very difficult circumstances. They've been absolutely brilliant, and what they can do following government guidelines, they have done. So let's hope that this year will actually improve and we'll be able to do some of the things that sadly we couldn't do last year, like for instance, Ill Day. But if anybody's got any questions, please ask me. I'm more than happy to try and answer them if it's all possible.
Yeah, right. Ely Rebut Association, Howard Macmillan, is he here?
Unfortunately, he's given his apologies. He's unable to attend, but he has said if anyone has any questions, he will be happy to answer them outside of the meeting. So his report is in the booklet, but he's not here to
Yes.
it.
Yeah, thank you. The allotments presented by Mr. Bond. Is he here?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chairman.
Oh, I couldn't
Well, I
see you,
submitted
sorry.
my report, which you'll be happy to know is a bit shorter this year than in previous years. The main thing is that even with the COVID restrictions and lockdown, the allotments have stayed open. And we'd like to thank the City Council for keeping them so, because there are some local authorities who actually closed their allotments because they felt that they were not, couldn't do the COVID regulations, but we've managed to stay open. And the main thing is the interest in allotments is tremendous. At the start of lockdown last year, we had 27 people on the waiting list. By the middle of last year, we had 88 people on the waiting list. And despite our best efforts, it's still about that figure. Everybody in Ely wants allotments. I mean, we are hoping that this year we're going to get the new allotments on the Ely North development, which of course has been held up with COVID because the building work has slowed, and the work in getting the ground ready for the allotments has also slowed. But hopefully progress is being made, and I'd particularly like to thank Vicky Holden, who's been our champion in contact with the East Cambs planning and also with Hopkins Homes in trying to push this through so we can actually allocate some allotments and cut down our waiting list. It is also my last report presentation, as I'm no longer chair of the Allotments Association. We've had to have a reorganisation of officers, and I'm now treasurer, and the future chairman is also at the meeting tonight, Ken Brown. He's taken over, and he will have the dubious pleasure of sending in the report to you next year. So, but again, I'd like to thank the council for their support throughout the year, and if anybody's got any questions, I will endeavour to answer.
Right, thank you very much.
I have a question.
Oh, sorry, Councillor. Councillor Rouse, sorry.
I have a question.
Yeah,
Firstly,
carry on.
just to say, as a councillor, thank you, Graham, for all you've done for the allotments and liaising with the council. It's been very informative, very helpful over the years. Councillor Phillips and I were talking about this issue today of the flooding we've had at the cemetery, and you've had problems on the New Barnes allotments. Can you just update us on what the situation there is? Do you have any information about where the water is coming from? Historically, there has been flooding in that Barnes area. Is it part of that? Has anyone suggested a solution? Because it was really bad this year.
Well, it has, yes. We've suffered tremendously. In fact, the flooding on New Barnes is the worst I've seen it, and I've had an allotment since 1994. We had, at one stage, there was just 2 plots didn't have standing water on them. I've been in touch with several people, including Angling Water, Environment Agency, Sanctuary Housing, East Cambs, trying to get a solution. What I have found out is that the cemetery had their surface water manhole connected into the surface water drains when they built the flats at the top of Clayway. And this runs down to what's known as an attenuated drainage system at the bottom of Larkfield Road and the bottom of the junction with Clayway, which is actually on sanctuary housing land. And I've been told by the county council flood people that that's their responsibility to maintain it, but they've done nothing to it. So it's not operated correctly. And through good contact with the Angling Water, I got them down because I could hear water running, and they were concerned that the surface water was getting into the foul sewer, which again, they were not happy about. But in an investigation, we found this not to be true, but we lifted manholes partway along Clayway up the hill, and the surface water was sat in the drain. It's just not getting away. So the surface water drains were full partway up Clayway because there's been no maintenance on that drainage system. The ditch should take the water away was totally dry. There's nothing going through, but nobody's accepting responsibility for maintaining that system. So, whereas actually it's from what I've been told, as I say, it's sanctuary housing responsibility because it is on their land. The drainage board, I've had a look, and he told me that, I mean, it's full of trees at the moment, and there should be no trees in there at all. And he said it's simply because there was no maintenance.
Right, thank you. Councillor Wilkins, you've got your hand up.
Thanks, Chair. I just wanted to say, on behalf of the councillor, thank you to Graham for his work as chair over the past few years. The association does have, about 250 tenants around the city, and it's an important amenity for the city and its people. I'd also like to thank Linda Adams, who's been secretary during that time as well, for all the work that she's done, and hope that we can find not just behind the Orchard Estate, but more sites to meet the growing demand that there clearly is across Ely. Thank you, Graham.
Thank you.
Thank you. Right. Mr. Brown, did you want to say something? Yes, I can see your hand up. Yes, go ahead.
Hello, I'm the, replacement for Graham. It's going to be a hard act to follow. On to all of you, in front of all of you, I would like to thank Graham for what he's done. I haven't got an easy job not to follow him. So thank you, Graham.
Okay, thank you. Subcommittees. We've got two subcommittees. One is the Sill Subcommittee. It's a newly formed subcommittee attached to PF&G because Sill holds a considerable amount of money, and it's a very important, it was a working party, but it has now been transformed into a subcommittee so that it's in a better place. So we've, to date, funding has been given to support the number 9 bus service, Ely Cemetery expansion, 3 defibrillators, refurbishment of the courtroom within the Sessions House, and funding is identified if the council's local highways improvement schemes bids are not successful. It has also been agreed to support funding for a sensory garden at the cemetery, which we think will be absolutely wonderful, and seating and information notice boards within the cemetery. So we've done quite a bit of work, really. Thank you. The other one is the Christmas Lights Subcommittee, which didn't happen, but the volunteers actually wanted it to be a committee, so it's actually been put into a subcommittee so that they can meet together and then report to the Assets Committee. So that's that. There's working groups. Now, there's quite a few of these. So the Youth Forum Working Group, Councillor Christine Whelan, I think that's you, isn't it?
Yes, that is me. Yeah, just to say that we've met a few times this last year. Obviously, with the pandemic, it's been very difficult to engage with the youth, and with the schools being shut and various youth groups holding online meetings and things like that. But we did manage to engage with one scout group, Councillor Alison Whelan and myself, and we talked about the council and what the council was, and the structure of the council, and basically trying to encourage them to put forward their ideas to the council for what young people want.
Yeah, thank you. The CCTV working group, that's Councillor Elizabeth Every. She's been working very hard on this, I know. Would you like to tell us about it, please?
it's a team effort, Councillor Austin.
Oh yes, I know, but we needed a leader.
But just to let you know that the Community Safety Partnership of East Cans, one of its priorities is safer streets, and that's what we've been trying to work on. But the steering group has worked together to put in a bid to the market tax strategy for the balance of the funding that's available to upgrade our existing CCTV and to widen its scope to go down to the river and up to the station and beyond. It's quite a large bid. We don't know how successful we will be because there'll be other people who've been consulted on that will also want to put forward projects that they want. However, what we're going to do is whatever happens is we're going to pursue that. But that bid went in just this week, and we will probably know in 2 or 3 months' time whether or not we've been successful. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Communications and PR working group, Councillor Arnie Arnold isn't here. Have you all read it? I think it's quite clear. You okay with that? Sorry, I got distracted with the Avon bell. Climate Change Working Group. That's Councillor Alison Whelan, please.
Thank you, Chair. Obviously, climate change is very important to many people within the parish, and certainly the existence of groups such as EcoEV demonstrates that. The group had originally intended to work very closely with local residents to make sure that ideas that they had could be put into practice. Obviously, COVID-19 restrictions have meant that a lot of the events that we had planned were cancelled, but hopefully we will be able to pick up on a lot of those in the coming months. Thank you.
Thank you. Governance Working Group, that's Christine Whelan, please.
Yes, the governance working group obviously reports directly to the Personnel, Finance and Governance Committee. It was set up to see how the structure of the council could be made more efficient. And we've met a few times over the last year and made a few recommendations for changes of standing orders and committee structures. So we've done this to actually recognise the needs of the changes in the council, and going forward we will be reviewing how the council has been run over the last year and see what can be improved and what works and what doesn't work. Thank you.
Right. Thank you. North Ely Community Facility Working Group, and that's Councillor Carson Brown. Your last act, I think, for us, sadly.
Well, yes. No, I'm no longer a councillor. I'm out a couple of weeks ago, but prior to standing down, I was leading on this. This committee was set up last. Sorry, this working group was set up last year. We've had one meeting thus far, and a joint meeting is happening in a couple of days' time. That Councillor Every is organising, taking forward the process of firstly ensuring that the planning application actually goes in, but also engaging with partners in the local community to make sure to make sure that the facility actually serves community needs, and that people are as involved as possible in setting up how it's actually going to work.
Thank you. The Malting Seating Working Group, that's Councillor Every, I think.
Yes, thank you very much, Chair. Just to say that we're well aware that as a venue, it's really important that we keep our facilities upgraded, because the Baltics obviously is an important venue for weddings and conferences, but it's also a local venue for theatre and arts and music productions as well. So we want to make sure that it is the best possible venue in the area, and it's very difficult to raise money for a venue like this as a council, and we have to start looking at all sorts of different ways of how we're going to do that. But we are absolutely fixed on the idea that we want this to be a really good venue, and we are looking at all ways of funding to improve the seats or to replace the seats, but also to look at the stage and the green room and so on, which I'm sure will come out our way. It is one of the best venues in the area, and we intend it to be.
Thank you. Councillor Rouse, Outdoor Sport and Leisure Working Group, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This work is ongoing. Obviously, we're basically at this moment dealing with two very lively and enthusiastic groups, one seeking to have a splash pad and one for a skate park. And we're exploring the options. We had a very good meeting with both groups about just over a week ago. And we're beginning to narrow down the options. And this week, again, all these meetings have to be Zoom or virtual meetings. Councillor Every and myself, are talking particularly with the Hive at the Leisure Village and looking at various possibilities there. So the work is very much ongoing. It's very active, and we do hope to be able to bring some positive suggestions to council in not too distant future. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Strategic Plan Working Group, please. I think that is Councillor Alison Whelan.
Yes, indeed it is. Thank you, Chair. We obviously undertook an awful lot of work prior to March last year, and we put together a strategic plan which reflected the vision set out by councillors and staff of the council. The plan was finalised during the course of the pandemic, but it became very clear that despite having a plan ready to be adopted, it will need revision very, very quickly due to the nature of, or the impact of COVID-19 on on all activities of the council. So that will be going ahead in due course. Any questions willing to take? Thank you.
The Inclusivity Working Group, that's Councillor Phillips, please.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I don't think there's anything to add to the report there. Quite obviously, the COVID-19 pandemic has greatly hampered the work of this group. But once we are free, or once people are free to meet again, and we are free to meet them, then we shall get going at double pace to catch up on what we haven't been able to do this year. So an ongoing task, and I hope by the time our next annual meeting comes around, there'll be much more to report. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Bellow, COVID-19 Working Group.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. As you can imagine, this work is ongoing, as although restrictions are lifting, we're not out of it yet, and they're yet to go completely. But I must say how immensely proud I've been of the volunteering that has gone on in the city and in the surrounding areas. People have really stepped up to support their neighbours and to make sure that everybody got the shopping and the prescriptions that they needed. It's been really great. The support needs now are changing, of course, as as we go from sort of practical physical help to more well-being help, and that in itself is going to be a bit of a challenge, but I'm sure everybody will manage to help each other, and that's what makes Ely such a wonderful place to be. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. Councillor Morgan. We now go on to representatives of outside organisations. Prickwillow Village Council, please.
I don't have anything to add to what I've written.
Okay. Was nice and speedy. Okay. Paradise Leisure Centre, that's Councillor Carson Brown.
Sorry, which one was that? I didn't catch that.
Paradise Leisure Centre.
Okay, I don't have very much to add that that isn't already in papers. Again, activity has been very curtailed by the pandemic. And hopefully we'll be in a position to come back stronger than ever. In the meantime, we're hoping it may end up being the location of either the splash pad or the new skate park, or both. But again, watch this space.
Thank you. Ely Trinity Dole, I think that's Councillor Phillips.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chairman. Nothing really to add to that report, just to say again that it's myself and Councillor Dennis who represent the council on the Dole. It was especially pleasing this year, perhaps, that the trustees were able to release funds to buy laptops for some less fortunate students in the city, and I think that went down rather well. Thank you.
Thank you. Stuntney Village Council, which is Councillor Lindsay.
Yes, the Village Council meets nearly monthly. Their achievements this year particularly revolve around, again, memories of the war, because they've now in the last week had permission to name their end of the Southern Bike Pass Seekings Way after a much decorated local hero who was born up actually in Quainey. The other thing that's exercising them particularly is the provision of a safe crossing place from the end of the village where you turn into the village to get across to the dual use pedestrian cycleway, which also should be improved within the next few months. And that impinges also actually on the Allotment Association, who are going to have a safe crossing point just near the roundabout where the roads divide to get across to the Stuntney Fen allotments. So quite a lot to be achieved actually in the next few months. So thank you.
Thank you. Padnell and Waterdown Internal Drainage Board.
Excuse me, Madam Chairman, could I ask a question of Councillor Lindsay?
Sorry.
Could I ask a question of Councillor Lindsay?
Yeah, you may.
The crossing point for the allotments, as the plans have all been settled and preliminary work has been done, and we've been told that the work is going to start around the end of next month. And the two crossing points are going to be, it's the combined work with the Stuntney crossing point. So has that not been settled then?
I don't think I'm any more up to date than you are. I've seen the plans for the allotment crossing particularly drawn out in some detail, but I'm not sure where they are exactly with the Stuntney crossing. But the good news is as well, there appears to be money in the County Council plot to I think actually reskim the cycle footpath, the dual use cycle footpath, and should, I hope, take us right up to the Ely Bridge.
Because I have seen plans for the Stuntney crossing. I was sent the plans for the crossing into the Stuntney village, so I assume that it was all been sorted out, because the two jobs are definitely going to be done together.
Well, I think that's you know as much as I do in that respect, and hopefully that'll be happening. But the way the county council brings its works together and announces these works is I found a fairly arcane art, I have to say. But I really don't know any more than you do as about the start date and whether both are being done at the same time. It is, as you know, it's county council work.
Yeah, well, I'm probably in a fortunate position because I've got a good contact in the county council highways, and he's told me that the work's planned to be done after the Lancaster Way roundabout is finished, simply because of traffic regulations. They can't have traffic lights on the same section of road within a certain distance of one another unless it's an emergency. And as soon as Lancaster Way is finished, it's earmarked to start on our crossing.
Well, I think that's really great news. It's good to have a mole, but not so good to have a mole under your lawn.
Okay. Padnell and Waterton Internal Drainage Board. I think that's Councillor Carson Brown.
Yeah. Nothing more to add than what I wrote in the papers. Unfortunately, the last there were 3 meetings in the last year, and the last 2 of them I had to give apologies for. As far as I'm aware from the papers, nothing particularly new to report, but I have nothing else to report.
Right, thank you. Caudle Fen, that's Councillor Mike Rouse.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This is the most down to earth of all the IDBs. Well managed, small, and very to the point, and brutally frank about councillors. But they do really appreciate the IDBs, the participation and the involvement of the council and councillors generally. And I would urge us to continue to support them. And it is, as Councillor Christine Whelan will know, quite an education. Thank you.
Thank you. Ely Museum, that's Councillor Dennis.
Thank you, Chairman. You'll have seen that despite COVID, the museum has been completed, the redesign and the build. But unfortunately, because of COVID, its opening has been postponed. I think you'll agree it looks terrific from the outside, and we all look forward to seeing how it looks on the inside once it is opened, when restrictions are lifted, and hopefully that will be later in the spring.
Thank you. Financial situation from Tracy Coulson, our clerk.
I don't really have anything further to add than what we've written in the report, just that it obviously has been very difficult for us this year with our loss of income, but we have reduced expenditure, so that has helped the situation. And we have tried to not to keep the council tax increase for next year as low as possible, because we're obviously aware that, you know, our parishioners have suffered financially as well. So we will move forward next year and hopefully recover our financial situation as best we can.
Right, thank you. Now there's the general forum, and you're invited to ask questions of the councillors. Has anybody got any? We've obviously answered some along the way, but is there anything else that people want to know? No, this is the one chance to do it. Reports from voluntary organisations we go on to now. It's the Ely Eco Trees. and it's Mrs. Halls and Miss Robertson. So who wants to speak first?
Thank you, Sue. And first of all, can I just thank Ely Council for giving us the grant in the first place. So thank you on behalf of myself and Amanda Halls and Eco Ely. It's been tricky because, of course, we've been into lockdown and we received the grant in April. But we have managed to plant a total of 26 large trees and 340 saplings since April, since receiving the grant. I did send some attachments with some maps of where we've planted, but if you would like, I can go through a little run through of the areas that we've planted and what we've planted.
If people would like that, that's fine.
Okay, so on the 10th of November, we planted 120 saplings at Abbott's Way in Ely, and on the 28th of November, we planted in Compton Fields 8 large trees and 30 saplings. And then on the 29th of November, we planted 12 large trees in Alexandra Chase in Ely and 120 saplings. 3 large trees in Hertford Close in Ely and 30 saplings as well. And on the 29th of November, we planted 60 saplings at Williams Close. And the 13th of December, 3 large trees at Alexandra Chase. And we are planting next Wednesday 10 further saplings on Willow Walk. So that's what we've been up to so far. So with the grant that we received, basically we've planted 26 large trees in Ely, which has been pretty good. We've involved volunteers, normally in family bubbles because of the COVID situation. Yes, it's been wonderful. It's given us a real good start.
Right, lovely, thank you. So it was just you speaking, was it?
Amanda, do you want to add anything?
No, not really. I think we've got a little bit left over, but we're looking at sites to plant. Finding sites now is becoming harder without crowding public recreation areas. So that's our aim, is just to finish the grant with a couple more sites. So we've only got about 300 left, I think. Yeah. So that if each tree is £35, and then the stakes and the ties, so you know it's about £40 per tree. So we've got a few more trees we can plant now. The weather's getting well. That's the problem. We're going to miss the spring plant maybe because it's getting drier. So we might have to hold on to that till the autumn.
Right, thank you very much. Oh, excuse me. Councillor, Mr. Carter. Barry Carter.
Good evening, everyone. Madam Chair, councillors, thank you very much for the opportunity to give you an update, and thank you for your grant. I'm pleased to say that we've managed to get our infrared cameras on order. They are currently on a lead time. So having put the order in February, we're expecting them to come in May. There's been a lot of hard work, a lot of hard fundraising to get us to the point of being able to put the order together. They're not cheap items, as you can imagine. But we are looking forward to them. They really will give us a strength, especially obviously for night searches. As a team, we're looking forward to receiving and training on them. We just thank you so much for thinking of us and making the award. Much appreciated.
Welcome.
Any questions you'd like?
No, obviously
no questions.
No. Prickwillow Engine Trust. That's Mr. Dunham.
That's me. Can you hear me?
Hi.
Hi.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes, we can.
Firstly, thank you very much for continuing to support us. It, like all things that are very old, things keep falling off and things keep needing to be done. So it's unfortunately, it's a never-ending need. And I think, as Pauline sent in to Tracy, the greatest need we have is to make sure the appliance is kept in good working order and complies with the regulations. 2020, we've renamed Survival Year, which I'm sure a lot of people have. It's survival on two fronts: survival in terms of people, obviously, but also survival in trying to maintain the museum. We've been closed for obvious reasons, and we hope to open again in May at some stage. But we have people working in the museum at the moment and working on the fire engine, trying to bring it round ready for this season, which we hope we'll be able to sustain. But it is very much a continuing work in progress. Without going into detail on the bits and pieces we need to do, it just is non-ending. But what we're trying to do now is to try and refurbish the outside and appearance of the engine as well, because it's getting a bit tatty. It hasn't helped this year because it's been enclosed in a very small enclosure at the Prickwillow site, and it does like to come out and see some daylight occasionally, as I'm sure we all do. If everything works, its first big outing this year will be Weeting, which, as we speak, is still planned to go ahead. But I think that may well be its only major outing this year, because Hadnam's been cancelled, and like many others, it will be cancelled. We ourselves won't be doing the ploughing festival again, not because we don't want to. Unfortunately, Tom Clark has decided that it's far too disruptive to the farm, so we have to bow to his continued support in other directions. But rest assured, we do want to make sure that when we say the engine, it's all about the Shan Mason. But we need to get that working in good working order so we can display it on run days. And one day we would like to bring it up to Ely itself and run it. But there is a question of insurance, which has been proving a bit of an obstacle in the past. What is not often talked about is there are two other engines which we've got at the museum. There's I always get the ages wrong, but there's a 1780, I think it is, and an 1840, and one's a four-man operating one and one's a single-man operating machine. Both of those have been restored by other members of the museum, and they stand proudly in our reception area. And so, they are really helpful of interest to people who come to the museum when they can get in, which we sincerely hope we can do later this year. So once again, thanks for your support, and that's very much all I can say, really.
Thank you. Stained Glass Museum.
Councillor Austin, could I just ask?
Oh, sorry.
Yes, could I just ask? Sorry, I just wanted to make sure that you had been able to take advantage of any funding that there has been for museums for reopening. And if you haven't, whether or not it might be worth having a word with Ellie at the Ely Museum, who's putting in for a fund to reopen the museum, and I'm sure Dr. Allen's doing the same. So I just wanted you to have every opportunity to get any funding that you can, in addition to what we've provided, as this is your really, really important opening up year. We could possibly talk outside this meeting if it would help.
That's very kind of you, Liz. So we're always after money. We've had some support from, yes, we have had some support. We probably missed a trick and we missed out on some of the support that was available.
But there's just a new fund that's just come out. That's why I mentioned it. So I've
Okay.
just sent an email to Ellie to see whether she can contact you and see whether there's any.
What I'll do is Pauline talks to Eddie quite regularly, so I'll get the two talking again.
Okay,
Thanks, Liz.
Okay. Stained Glass Museum, Dr. Allen, is she here?
Yeah. Hi, good evening.
Ah.
Thank you to the City of Ely Council for providing a small grant this autumn to us, which enabled us to have the best event that we could possibly have last year in the year of all years, which was Window Wonderland in partnership with Babylon Arts. I don't know how many of you went and explored the kind of window trail on the 23rd, 24th of October, but it was a fantastic event with over 150 houses and businesses that took part. Obviously, there's a lot of potential for it to grow. The feedback was fantastic. 95% of people said, please definitely have it again next year and make it an annual event. So we are hoping to do that. And it kind of fell really nicely in that period just before the second lockdown. It was a really positive event, and I hope some of you saw some illuminated windows and it brought some joy into your lives. So thank you to you for helping us to get that going. It was a lot of work, but it was brilliant. And thank you especially to Mark Cooney, Spotted in Ely as well, who kindly put all the photographs that people had sent us up and collated them together, which was a really nice record.
Thank you. Okay. Are there any questions? No. Okay. So it's just left to me to say thank you all for attending. It's been a very interesting meeting. I would like to say that we are well aware that we've got 4 freedoms of the city outstanding. We will actually do them as soon as we are able to. But when that's going to be, we just have no idea. But it hasn't been forgotten if people think it has. And I also want to say we must continue to be safe. I know on social media people think the mayor's going to turn up at the boat race, but the mayor isn't because she hasn't been invited. And so I'm definitely not going, and I hope everybody will watch it on the television. And I know it's a great disappointment, but there is nothing we can do about it. And you know, the sooner we all obey the rules, the sooner we'll be out of this. And you know, people, I think some people at the moment are being a bit silly, but we won't be, will we? So but I just wanted to clarify that, just in case people think I'm sneaking in, because I'm not. So anyway, thank you very much for coming, and we shall see you again soon, hopefully.
Madam Chair, Madam Chair, I think Mr. Brown has his hand up.
Oh, sorry, I didn't see that. You're a bit dark.
Oh, I do apologise.
That's right.
Councillor Lindsay, can you make sure that I am involved as an old stunty boy? Can you make sure that I am involved with the Stunty Council meetings? Because I would like to discuss their crossing and our footpath.
Yes, I'll pass the information. I only attend there. I'll pass the information to Madam Chairman at Stunty Council, because she may or may not have met you in the past. I don't know, Ken.
Yes, I have. As I'm an old stunty boy, yes, I do know the chair. I do know the chair. And if I could be involved, that would be absolutely wonderful. As you're only 2 allotments away from me, you can let me know. Sorry.
Yeah,
it's all right.
Thank you very much for that. I'll speak to her.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So unless anyone else has got to say, I'm pulling the meeting to a close now. No?
No. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Chair.
Good job.
Thanks.
Thank you, everyone.
Take care, everyone.
Good night, all.
Be safe.
Oh, and Tracy, I'll not forget, I will be seeing you about the allotment agreement with the council. You've not got rid of me entirely.
I look forward to it.